Right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Reddit Talks Clash, episode 2. We've got lots of good stuff to discuss today, including the new CWL format, Darian's phishing post, and lots more. So I am Sam. I am currently Town 13, leader of Census Clan, and yeah.
Nice. I'll hop in next. I am Frank. I am a co-leader of Centuriates, along with Mac or Frank, however you want to be called. Yeah, there are too many names around here. But I am a Max Town Hall 14. Actually maxed out this week. Finished my last wall, so I'm super excited.
Nice.
I'm just a couple walls away myself. Should be done here in a couple days. I'm Mac. You guys can call me Mac, Mr. Mac in game. And we will be interacting with you guys that are here live. So leave us a question in the comments, and we'll get around to the questions at the end.
I guess rounding us out, I am Rick. I played every level I got in a lot of accounts. So yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
So I'm the only one who wasn't here last week, but I've been a mod for a couple of years. I'm planning to be on most of the shows for here on out, hopefully all of them. But super excited about it. And a lot happened in the last couple of weeks.
So should we begin with the new CWL
particularly
format?
the CWL.
Yeah.
This is the first time they've shortened the CWL week.
Yeah, I do think the February excuse is a bit flimsy. Like, there's something about it that doesn't sit right. Personally, I think they're doing this as a pretense to maybe make it the permanent new format, because they've never done it on a February before, so I don't see why this February would be different. But, I could definitely see them thinking about making this a permanent shift and them just using this as an excuse to see how the community reacts.
It just seems, I've heard that take. It seems far-fetched to me that they're thinking it out that way. It almost seems nefarious. I feel like if they were going to make that change, they would just announce it that way. They might be like feeling it out in February, but I really would just wonder more how it will really affect like clan dynamics. Because I know CWL is what our clan revolves around. I think that's pretty common across Clash of Clans at this point, right? Don't most clans kind of evolve around their CWL status?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the clan that you're in. The more social ones probably would find a relief out of this. Of the four of us who are on right now, I think most of us are pretty competitive with the game. So dropping days on CWL is always going to feel bad. But even when I'm just super excited about it, 8 days is quite a lot. And if I have anything going on at the same time, it can be a little bit tough to keep up with. So I feel like for casual players, this might be nice, but then you're also just reducing the number of like event days per month that are going on. And I feel like if you're only logging on a few times per month, then if you miss CWL entirely, then that is going to feel just as bad.
I think where it lands now, if the five wars carries forward, then everyone should be done around the 7th. And that gives us 2 full weeks until clan game starts. So there's a lot of room to shove another event in there if that's what they're thinking. That's where my mind first went to it when I saw the announcement.
Oh yeah, I guess if they're planning to add something, then it makes sense to shorten CWL. But I don't really know what they'd add in particular.
Mega bases is the mega bases is the thing I think everyone's hung up on, and I know I'd love that, but we'll see.
Dude, build your base wars. I bet that's it.
Oh God. I mean, it's clear Supercell is planning something. Supercell is planning something?
A whole builder base CWL.
That would be hilarious. Oh man.
That's an April 1 announcement.
The idea where you squeeze an extra event in the month to a third game mode like builder base is to main base.
Oh, yeah, no. I think because of how poorly Builder Base was received, I'd be shocked if they ever added a third mode.
Yeah, I just don't think that would be a winner because you've already got a second base which everyone hates. You need the third base for everyone to hate, and it's just a bit overwhelming. People want to focus on their main base, and Clash of Clans, while it's complex, certainly attacks can get very complex. It still, at its core, is here's your base, you upgrade things, have fun. If they just start adding constantly more layers, more villages, it just gets too complex and almost too overwhelming for a player to manage. I hate builder base attacks. I'm almost max on it now, apart from walls, but it's been a horrible process. Like, I haven't enjoyed it.
So I do want to back up for just a second to something that Max said, because I do disagree. You were saying that you don't think Supercell would just like lie to everyone. I don't know of a different way to phrase that, but that you think they actually just did it because of February. I think for sure there has to be some ulterior motive. I don't know what it is, because like Sam said, like there have been 3 or 4 Februarys for how long has CWL happened now? Like 2 years, 3 years?
And years.
Yeah, there have been a few Februarys to try this. So I absolutely don't buy that it's just the month of February. I think if they've got something planned, or they're just feeling it out to see if a shorter CWL is, I don't know how that would actually like profit the game. But if they're seeing if that's the direction they want to go in, I absolutely think that they're doing it intentionally.
The only information we got through the NDA channel stuff was it was really elusive, and they said, we're just going to see how people feel about it, because we haven't done any changes to it in the two years or whatever. So that we don't really have any more info, but yeah, they're not doing it just because, like, let's see what happens. That doesn't. There's got to be some kind of motivation behind it. So we'll see. I guess if March rolls around and we're back to normal. I don't know. We'll go from there.
I don't think if we go back to normal in March, I wouldn't say that would rule it out, because realistically they could just be doing this as a test run and then see how it plays out, go back to regular format for now, and then with whatever data, community reactions they've gathered from this, they might look at implementing something similar again in the future. And in terms of community reactions, I've definitely seen quite a mix. I think on the sub, it's been largely negative. People seem to prefer, this their 7 wars. That's just what they like. But then I have talked to people personally.
To rebut that point real quick, would you ever want CWL to be longer?
No.
9 or 10?
No,
exactly.
No, that's overwhelming.
See, what a quick answer, right? Right away. You didn't want it to be longer. So as much as I really, CWL is my favorite part of the game. I get most excited about CWL hits and that format. But I think, the shorter CWL might not be a bad thing.
So I've got two questions, because I definitely see where we're coming from a preference standpoint, and then just from like a casual to an extreme player, how they'll have different feelings about it. But they're kind of unrelated. One is that if you guys are following along and watching right now, our guy in the back room, Spencer, pinned the post that talks about this, the official news from Supercell. Deadly Davo put this up 5 days ago, and it is just a screenshot of the actual news. And it's talking about the demote and promote as well. Did anything change in that? Because I honestly don't remember the promotes.
Fewer clans are getting demoted. I think the promotion rates are staying the same.
That's correct.
It's just easier to stay. But
exactly. It's still going to be 8 stars per person for max medal.
That's the part I think we take the most issue with, right?
Yeah. It's and having fewer wars to rotate people around. There's that certain size of clan, 20 to 25 active members, where you don't have enough active people to do a 30 versus 30, and you have too many to get everyone their 8 stars with only 5 wars. I think so. Yeah. I think that combined with the no notice is where most people are upset. I don't think the concept of a shorter CWL is in principle people oppose, but it was the notice and not having enough chance to rotate everyone through, I think, is what really kind of annoying everyone.
So here's my second question then. I think from a leadership standpoint, from a clan, it can be a little bit more difficult to manage fewer days, but is it a competitive advantage to have more or fewer days in CWL?
I think if you're thinking about it very technically, it is a disadvantage to have less days. Like, if you think of it really technically, you have less clans to prove yourself against, you have less time to make comebacks. You have less. There is less wars to do. If you think about it as a sample size, you are doing less attacks. It is a lower sample size of your skill. If you think of it just purely statistically, but
I
then
think it'll be more volatile.
in practice, I don't think it'll affect much.
Yeah, so less variance or less days means less variance or more variance.
I think it means more variance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. More variance. And so I guess if you're the actual
faster
best
match
clan
games.
of the week, then you want as many days as there are to prove it. But that's so subjective, It's just who's the best on the day and who's the best for those amount of days.
Exactly. And I mean, there is also now the thing with CWL is it's kind of less significant this year, as it appears that Worlds won't have any involvement with CWL. They announced so firstly half the golden tickets would be from community events like Clash Masters, ESL, etc. And then the other half would be given out in some event called 6 Weeks of Clash, which has so far been given no details, but that it doesn't seem like that's going to be involved with Supercell CWL, which it's kind of like it's a bad thing in the sense that it kind of removes that accessibility of use this in-game feature, go to this big tournament, but then we have no idea what it'll replace it with, so it could be something much better.
I don't think there's any reason to expect this is the permanent way either. It seems like they're going to be making a lot of decisions and changing it year to year, and the best clans are going to be the ones that can make the adjustment.
Yeah, pulling the golden tickets out of CWL is definitely going to give them the freedom to play with the format. So yeah, I don't know. I think it'll end up in a good place. It's it's the biggest event of the month for sure. It's got to be bigger than Clan Games. So I mean, I don't think they're just going to trash it or do anything irresponsible.
So while that's been some pretty big news that I think the sub has been talking about for the last week, I think by and large the most talked about topic in the last 2 weeks, and I think we talked about this in the last episode too, but it's developed a whole lot more, is all of what's been going on with phishing and just all the different posts. I don't think a Supercell's post about it was up last time, right?
No.
Yeah, but ours wasn't it?
Yes.
Nice. So, Rick and Sam, I know you guys have been a lot more involved with that than me. Give everybody an update on the update post that Darian put out and kind of what your thoughts are on it.
So the post Darian put out, while it was a loose promise to do better, it was kind of more saying we are hearing the concerns, but it didn't particularly offer any concrete solutions. It was quite a long post, but it felt like it didn't feel like there was much substance in it. However, Darian was and still is being very pretty active in the comments, which is great to see. So I posted a comment talking about the vulnerabilities in the Supercell API, Clash Clans API, and how you can get certain information from that. And Darian did say, as a reply to that, that they were aware of loopholes and were working to fix them. And to quote, I think he said they would drastically reduce the number of stolen accounts, which, obviously we're yet to see what that involves, but that is actually, I think, more promising than what the rest of the post said. Rick, I'm sure you've read a lot of the comments too, so I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
So yeah, I think his comment to you was the biggest takeaway from that. I wrote down the whole quote, but you got the gist of it. Where that was the first time he said, to paraphrase, like, hey, we know it's a problem and we're going to fix it. So, it's not exactly time to take a victory lap, but that is a concrete promise that it's going to be addressed. So I think that's what we gotta hold them to now. There were a couple other good comments too. The ones I wanted to, I think, highlight, I wrote down. He said, quote, there are some immediate things we can do on our end that will have a big impact. Changes in policy will take longer to implement as we have to analyze how effective they'll be, but and also their long-term ramifications. So it's not going to be an overnight fix. Obviously, I don't think anyone reasonable was expecting that.
Right.
But it sounds like they are taking it seriously, at least.
Yeah, no, and I hope so. He added his own comment to it to say, I want to keep this dialogue open and don't want it to feel like empty platitudes, which I think is cool. But I guess I'm curious what the overnight changes would be versus the systematic ones, because I can see, like, if they take all of their support and make it in-house, that'd be a huge process, would take a whole lot of time, but they have a lot more oversight in it. I think right now they outsource all their support, which is part of the headache. But like what they can fix overnight to just make it better, I'll be really interested to see what that looks like in the next week or two.
So I mean, I don't know what's easy and what's fast to implement. I'm kind of guessing here, but the suggestions that people threw out a lot were two-factor authentication and being able to opt out of recovery, and both of those are kind of pipe dreams, I think.
I think
two-factor authentication is.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think Darian basically said they weren't going to disable account recovery. I think they flat out.
They've put a lot of stuff into wanting to allow people to come back. I think they designed the whole recovery process with making it easy to come back, and players that come back are players that are potentially going to spend money too. So giving people the option to shoot themselves in the foot like that doesn't really seem like a smart business move, but I think it is pretty. Hopefully, they can tell how serious of a problem it is, because the significant number of people that would rather just take their chances on losing their account permanently than wait it out and trust that they'll fix the system eventually.
Spencer, for everyone listening, can you pin Darian's post to your top comment? Because I'm reading through some of it too. When Rick was saying that Darian's response to Sam was one of the best ones. But I think looking through the comments to that, the only thing that I really disagree with is there are a bunch of people commenting like, here's an idea, and then 5 or 6 responses to that are just saying like, oh, it's so obvious, it's so easy. And to give Supercell some credit, like, obviously this has been an issue for years, and there shouldn't need to be a bunch of community backlash for them to actually do something about it. So not to give them too much credit, but to give them a little bit of credit. I think my biggest complaint about this whole conversation is seeing people like really oversimplify it, throw in 1 or 2 ideas to say two-factor authentication or turning off account recovery or something, and then seeing just the whole hive mind say like, oh man, it's so simple, why isn't Supercell doing just these little things? Because like Rick said, like every one of these solutions has some type of argument or rebuttal against it, and it's up to Supercell to figure out how to weigh the pros and cons of each of them.
I think one of the immediate things that at least I want to see that seems simple to me, at least, is that if someone is trying to recover an account that's tied to a Supercell ID, they need to send an email to that Supercell ID and say, hey, someone's trying to recover the account. Is it you? And then that way, as long as the person checks their email regularly, they can put a halt to it before their account is transferred. They can say, no, that's not me. The same as you get every time you try and change your password anywhere or log in from a new device or whatever. The tons of services will do that. And that's not going to stop people stealing accounts that are inactive or people that don't check their email, but it's definitely going to stop some of them. If I got an email tonight saying someone's going to stop my account, I could prevent it. And I think that needs to be done. And that seems simple enough to do quickly.
Yeah, and another benefit to that is if it is rightfully your account, even if you've lost access to the email, which I'm sure is true in a lot of these cases, otherwise you just use Supercell ID, that won't matter because there's nobody there to, if you don't have access to the email, in theory no one else does, so no one will stop you from logging in. So yeah, I think that sounds like a pretty solid process.
Yeah, one of the comments in our Reddit talk right now is that 2FA is a stupid suggestion. 2FA improves login security, but the weakness is Supercell supports recovery, not login security. I think Yeah, what Rick was saying is not exactly 2FA, but like using Supercell ID as essentially a 2FA for recovery is the idea of it.
So yeah, the problem with comparing it to 2FA is that, the way that people steal accounts is they just say, "Yeah, I don't have access to that email. Can you change it?" And they just say, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." And so even if, no matter how secure the system is, if they're just going to assign the account to a new email address, there's no point in 2FA anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And like, I remember when I was a student in college, I had one of my accounts set up with my college email, and like that expires after you graduate. And so there are like a lot of legitimate reasons to get a different email address associated with your account sometimes. And so it's definitely a tough problem figuring out how to satisfy all of your users while also keeping security as high as you can.
So the other big glaring problem that we found out, Sam and I have been reading phishing guides and talking to people. I've talked to probably at least a dozen people who are saying they're ex fishers or current fishers, just to try and figure out how the whole process works and what the problems are. And the other big issue that I think they need to address quickly is that people basically have unlimited attempts. So you have to answer the recovery questions. But if you get it wrong, then you catch a 31-day ban, and that's it. You just make a brand new Town Hall 2 or 3, and then you try again. And so there are accounts that you can try 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And then when you get it right the 9th time, then okay, cool. And no one notices that. And that should definitely send up red flags in the system that this is a probable attempt to steal an account. If you get it wrong that many times, it needs a higher level of scrutiny. And that's more of a process, a policy thing. And that's going to take training employees, and maybe that's not an overnight fix, but that definitely needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and also another thing me and Rick found out when we were doing our bit of investigation is regarding the API loopholes, how easy they are to exploit. Not to go into details about any of them, because obviously that's a bad idea, but I managed to write 2 scripts that could find information that could, act as a security question for account recovery, and they weren't hard to write. I mean, obviously you need some sort of programming knowledge, but they were not complex programs. I didn't have to hack Supercell to find it. I just had to use their public API. And of course, even if you've got no programming knowledge, there are bots available which do this sort of stuff. And they do it not by hacking Supercell, they do it by using resources Supercell provides, which is definitely concerning. But it is good to hear that Darian and the team know of those issues and are hoping to fix them.
So I know previous name changes is one of the recovery questions, and Sam was able to tell me people's previous account names within 10 minutes of trying to start, just figuring out how to write this program and then running it. And that's kind of scary that, that's something that we all thought was going to be private information. And in certain cases, it's not at all.
How many accounts have you stolen now, Rick?
I probably could. Like if I wanted to go steal accounts, I bet you I could get one within a day, and just from casually reading the couple guides and having access to Sam who can make bots for me.
Well, let's not make that your next challenge video.
I do remember saying to Rick, if I didn't have morals and wasn't a subreddit mod, I honestly would just get into account phishing because it's so easy. But no, I would not encourage it. It is not a good idea.
Overall, I'm happy with the response that we did finally get. It's realistic. They actually acknowledged there was a problem, which is something that historically Supercell has been really, really reluctant to do. So in the couple weeks that I think everyone was really talking about it to where we got the response, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. And I hope, obviously it was a community effort and it's great that it's kind of worked. Because, of course, when we made that post, it almost seemed, and we had a week with no Supercell response, it did feel a bit hopeless. But we've just proven that when we rallied everyone's rallied together, we are actually making a difference. And I think that's something to be really proud of, just as a community, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't want to pat ourselves on the back until something actually happens, but you know, we just got to keep the pressure on. And Darian said they're going to fix it. We just have to hold them accountable now.
Yeah, but I think there's still a bit of a silver lining to the whole situation, that we just are all invested into a game where the company cares enough to actually respond. You know, I know a ton of games where either the dev teams just are totally checked out or don't care or whatever it is. So I think for even just a couple weeks to have a solid turnaround and progress in the conversation is great. But to talk about something a little bit more lighthearted, we've had Green Power 36 is the username, has been posting a bunch of these super troop concepts lately, and one that's up now, it was up the day after our last video, so it's a couple weeks old by now, but it was pretty well received, was the super golem idea, and he's got maybe a couple of different ones. Mac, if someone can walk us through the post, Spencer has it linked for anyone who wants to pull it up and follow along, but it looks like he's got a crystal and a gold and some other things with it too.
I've got it up now if you want me to go through it while you find it.
Yeah, set it up.
My bad. I thought Mac would.
Oh, you're fine. It's not. I didn't see it linked to the document as you were talking, so I didn't have it pulled
No,
up yet.
you have to hit refresh. This is the time for my
Oh, I
public
got it.
apology to everyone listening. Spencer had that link up when I asked him to, and I didn't hit refresh, and he's too nice to call me an idiot in front of all of you. So I'll do it for him. Spence, you're the best.
Well, you guys are going to have to go ahead and set it up for me because I can't even pull it up. I'm having a Reddit talk crash on my computer right now.
Right, well, I'll read through it for now. So he had two, this Green Power 36. He had two super troop concepts, so he does say that the second one, that part of it, the ability was created by U/Platinum 037396, so correct him too. So firstly, starting with the Crystal Golem, this is the first idea. So the special ability is called Reflection, and I'll read the description. The more Crystal Golem gets damaged, the more Crystal Golem damages back. The Crystal Golem has an NA, so unspecified tile radius, that reflects damage to buildings from any side of his radius, regardless of how many defenses damage him and where the defenses that are attacking him are located. The reflected damage does minimum damage. The duration of his reflected damage would be 1 second. Crystal Golemites can also reflect damage, however they do less damage than the Crystal Golem. And if you guys can pull up the post, he does provide an image of kind of what that would look like. So it's basically, I'm going to use a Minecraft analogy here because I can. If any of you guys know the Thorns enchantment, it's basically that. Someone does damage to you, you do damage back to them, which I think it's a pretty cool concept.
So to use an older man analogy, he's like RoboCop then, right? Bullets just bounce off him and back onto all the buildings around him.
That sounds right. I like the art a lot too. The purple looks sweet.
No, the art's my favorite part about it. And I think it's a cool idea, but I'll pick it apart a little bit and then someone can disagree with me why they think it's a good idea. The problem is that at least for this picture of it, he's got the reflected damage radius being right around the golem. And I don't know what else he would do other than have it come out where the golem is standing. But when is the golem going to be somewhere in the base getting just a ton of damage and like the buildings that he's right next to aren't already being destroyed is my question. Because if you just have like a normal golem who's tanking up in that spot, you've got an army around it that's already hitting things there. So for like scatter shots, to absorb a scatter shot damage and then hit what's right next to you, I think it's a really cool idea. But for like a town hall that you're already on top of and other defenses that you're standing like right on top of and your army's attacking it, I don't know if it would be everything I'd want from a super troop, you know?
I definitely actually agree with that, as in the ability doesn't seem too overpowered, but as it's a super troop, I think it would naturally have, for example, probably a few thousand more HP points, and you never know, that could be all the difference. Because, for example, let's take Super Bowlers, right? Yes, their triple bounce is definitely nice, but also it's just the fact that they've got a lot more health and damage, and you can use them as a smash troop. You know, if you try to use regular bowlers as healers, they can get one shot by things like scatter shots. But if you use super bowlers, they have enough damage, you can heal through them. So it may be that the Crystal Golem is more useful for its statistic buffs than its actual special abilities. But yeah, I mean,
if I'm
the
reading the
special abilities
ability
really-
right, it kind of sounds like he would do a consistent DPS, right? As long as he's taking damage, he is constantly has a bubble around him that's reflecting it. Are there any offensive troops that do consistent DPS like that? Or does everything chunk with their swings?
Super Dragons were advertised as that consistent DPS, but when you actually play with them, they breathe and have like
they move around
it's
a lot.
long hit, but it is one attack.
In that, hey, did you do the test war with Super Drags?
Yeah, I did.
Did they breathe continuously back then?
So actually, that's a really good point. I don't know how many people care about this. In the dev build, a couple of the mods like playtest the updates, and I think they did. It's been like 3 months maybe since that happened, and so I don't remember too well, and I didn't take a video of it. But I think they did do continuous damage, but definitely in game, it's like one long breath, and then it stops for a second, and then goes again.
Yeah, that sounds right.
The consistent DPS aspect would be the most interesting part for me. Would get me to give golems a try again for sure.
Yeah, but that's
Just
what
having them
I'm
out front.
curious if it'd be good or not, because like buildings aren't that high hit point. Like the town hall is pretty high and the eagle, but other than those two, like
Walls.
but like if it's a golem, he's not just going to be standing next to walls. He'll be like walking through them, or they'll already be broken, or like walking around him, or already broken for him to walk through. So I think it's a really cool idea. I just don't think it would. It's like when the log launcher first came out and nobody knew how to use it, and they would just like put it in for a P.E.K.K.A smash where you'd put a wall wrecker. That like I thought it was a cool idea and it was really unique, but I just didn't think it was super functional. And then everyone was wrong with the log launcher. So maybe there's a way to do this with the reflected damage that would actually be super broken. But I think just plopping it in an army like a normal golem, you're not getting a ton of value out of the reflection.
Yeah, just linking back to your point earlier, you never use a golem by itself. It's a tanking troop for a reason. You're tanking for other things. So I don't, and obviously those things should be high damage troops. So if they're already doing damage, I don't know how much of an impact the obviously minimal damage of the reflection will be. But yeah, there might just be a better use case to it that we just haven't thought of.
Or if it is like a 1-to-1 reflection, then maybe you do send it in by itself. And then like as the scatters are hitting it, it just like carves out a path for, wherever you dropped it.
Yeah, though it would, if it went directly to a scatter shot, it wouldn't be targeted by the scatter shots. That's something to bear in mind because it would get inside the radius. But
Oh yeah. All right, so he's got.
Well, what do you guys think of these leaks? Have you guys seen the new update leaks that people have been posting out of the?
It was in the it was in the Warrior Warden. It was in the Warden release video, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it was.
We got 5 expos, 2 master builder huts. You can see the post from Pokemox is in the sticky comment from Spencer there for you guys that are live.
Yeah, so we can talk about it for sure, but I definitely think it's fake news. There's the first one that just points out 5 expos and 2 builder huts, and I know that's what a lot of people really latched to, was having 2 master builder huts. And Supercell has hinted a bit at Builder Hall 10 coming out soon, and so I think it's kind of on the table. But I think an extra builder, unless it's going to translate 1-to-1 and be another hero for builder base, because I can see them doing that at some point in the future, is adding a second hero there. I don't think they just want to add more builder bases. I think when people max their accounts out, that's generally a bad thing for Supercell, because then they're not spending money on gems and hammers and different upgrades. And so adding another builder base feels pretty counterintuitive to where the state of the game is at. And they keep like buffing the build times for everything at low town halls. And so a 7th builder, don't think it'll happen.
Most of the stuff.
Sorry.
I was gonna say most of the stuff that they've kind of leaked in videos like that has been really subtle and just wildly changing the number of buildings. I don't even know what that would mean.
The main thing that tipped me off immediately that it probably was fake was the lack of the queen. And because obviously Supercell aren't removing the queen from Clash of Clans, that would just be
And
Yeah,
she's
that
pretty
is
OP.
that
if
is
we're being honest.
that is an improbable scenario when you think about it. And then if the queen is removed, well, doesn't that imply that the base is already quite modified? So having an extra expo isn't that telling because the queen is removed. That doesn't mean the queen is going to get removed from the game. So if there's an extra expo, well, why should that mean that there's going to be an extra expo added to the game? It just felt like there was so much stuff changed, and some of it that would be so consequential to remove that it just didn't seem right.
I think E2 talked about it on his video, where he just said they probably just wanted to design a symmetrical looking base and didn't really think about it.
Which would be hilarious if someone at Supercell actually just botched a base that badly. I would think they were, having someone come in to do a video for them for, the promo of the event and the skin and everything. And there's probably some miscommunication across that point in terms of numbers of stuff. Yeah, no, Sam, that's what I was going to say. The second post that comes up that actually shows the entire base, no queen is the biggest giveaway to me. That I would be shocked if any of that was supposed to be like an intentional Easter egg.
Yeah, just imagine, like, congrats, you've upgraded your queen 80 levels, and now she's optional.
Dude, I've played this game for a long time. I don't think
Yes.
anything could make me quit, but getting rid of any of the heroes at this point would be close.
Yeah, I think have Clash just ever gotten rid of something before? Because I haven't played the game for years and years like you guys have, so I just don't know. But as far as I know, they've never actually removed something except for like limited time troops.
I know they've made changes that they've reverted entirely, but I don't think anything's been completely deleted out of the game.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it's just been like major balances and like troop preferences is the closest thing. Like when defenses would have a preference over a troop and deal extra damage to them, or Infernos cutting through healing. But those are all mechanics as opposed to actual like assets being removed.
Yeah, and there were balance changes that ended up reverting to. Like, they made witches crazy powerful for a little bit. I think Valks as well. We had an extra 30 seconds in the war time for attack timers, and that was just completely insane.
I do remember that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that lasted a couple months at least.
Yeah, almost forgot it.
Yeah, like you could just do a queen walk for 2 minutes. It was crazy.
Yeah, I love
Queen. Like queen walking yet.
Oh, well, before we move into our questions, and I don't know exactly when we want to move into all the crowd questions, but we've got plenty of them. And so if we're on a tight time schedule, we might want to jump into those soon. But before we do that, for the event that came up, there was a good guide for it. If anybody's struggling to go through the event that Trample Damage put up. And I don't know if you guys are listening to this and you have not heard of Trample Damage yet, like check out Trample Damage. He's one of the best Clash YouTubers, and he actively posts and contributes to the sub. And so if you ever have a question about a strategy that he puts up, he'll be like thrilled to talk with you about it. But he makes a ton of really, really good content and has a guide up for the Tiger Mountain challenge. And it's a whole guide for how to do it, how to, when to drop all your stuff. And it's a video walkthrough, so he'll explain everything to you. And so if you guys are still struggling with that event, haven't done it yet, definitely check out Trample's guide for it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we have all discussed and all mentioned our interest in wanting to get Trample Damage on the pod someday. So hopefully we can do that and you guys can have a chat with him, ask him questions. So yeah, that should be good.
All right, yeah, let's do we got any questions? I can't pull up the list.
Yeah, I think Spencer's compiled sorry about my cough. Compiled a list. If you want me to read them out, if no one else can get it up, then I am.
Yeah, no, I see about 12 of them, and I don't think we'll call out per question that's asked, but Spencer's let us know which ones are dumb questions or not, and I think that's hilarious.
Right, there's actually one I'd quite like to start with, which is why do you decide to spend your time moderating a subreddit? So, anyone got a good answer to that?
I was here enough already, and I figured I might as well try and help.
Yeah. Oh man, Rick was one of those mods who was added on because they were like so unhappy with the sub that they were like, if we can't beat him, join us. But then Yeah. No, it was almost like I don't know if this is a good reference or not. If you guys have seen Pirates of the Caribbean 2, when Jack Sparrow just jumps straight inside the mouth of Cthulhu. That's what and then got his way with most of the mod team.
Yeah, I don't think I remember having one argument with you, Frank, and it wasn't over the sub though. It was just over whether people should use gems to be able to buy gold pass.
Oh,
and then
what? I didn't know that was you. That's hilarious.
yeah, that was me. And then I know I'd criticize Zag a lot.
Sure.
But I don't think I ever gotten like fights. When the mod app went up, I went in and asked, like, are you guys actually up for changing some stuff? Because I mean,
I
I'm
remember your
in
comment.
if so, but if it's going to be status quo, I won't waste anyone's time. And now it's been a year, and we made a lot of cool changes. So
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I think I mostly applied kind of on a whim. I'm sure, as everyone here knows, oh my god, I can't speak. I wasn't too active before I became a mod, so I would like comment on a few posts, but like compared to someone like Rick, I was just non-existent. But I thought, you know what, I play like this is when I was properly playing Clash a lot every day. I was like, I enjoy being in this community, checking out the posts. What the hell? Let's apply for mods, see what happens there. And I honestly think I wouldn't be playing Clash, or I wouldn't be playing it as much if I hadn't, because firstly, like, I am way more active on the sub. I'm far more engaged with the community. I've met a lot of great people, most of them being the mods. And for example, my clan, I wouldn't have joined if I wasn't a mod, because it was, I think, either Lion or Mac that invited me to join. So yeah, I think a lot of stuff would have been different if I didn't become a mod, and I'm, as sad as it sounds, I'm quite happy that I did.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page as Sam. I've been a mod for the longest of anybody who's in the room right now. It's been about 2 years, 2.5, I think. And it was just because I like the game a whole lot. We're not, like, I know mods are a big conversation in general, and like people love to hate mods. And generally speaking, I do too. But I'd like to think ours is pretty different. None of us just like collect mod positions on different subs, and we're not about it because of what Reddit is. We're about it because we all enjoy the game Clash of Clans. And so that's why I joined. And then after being in it, similar to what Sam said, it's just a really neat community. Getting more plugged into the sub on a deeper level was a lot of fun. But the reason I got into it at first was because on the recruiting sub, Clash of Clans Recruit, we had a problem with some guy trolling our clan. And so I asked if I could be a mod there to make it stop. And then just got to be a mod on the main sub.
Can we tell that story?
I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think so. It was the funniest troll we had. He posted recruiting posts for us, and it was like they were genuinely good posts. It was super weird.
Ex-member would post recruiting posts for our clan with strange mistakes, like nonsensical moments, but generally a positive tone.
Yeah. Would I at all know who it is, or
no? I don't think so. It was a while ago, like 3 years ago now. But kind of on a related note, one of the questions that we got, and this goes directly into why Rick is a mod. Someone said, "Why memes only on weekends?"
Oh man, how much time we got left?
We got 15 minutes.
I remember just like typing up that application and just thinking, like, man, I hope these guys have a lot of free time. Because that was the big thing. Is over the years, I think the sub was it had basically just became a meme sub. I mean, you could count the posts on the front page, and there are 25 posts on a page in Reddit. And any random day you could go on and just you count them up, and at least 20 of them were memes, and there was just almost no other kind of content that was being posted. So I kind of compared it to like if you just let your toddler choose what they want to eat every day, they're going to choose pizza all the time. So, you got to tell them.
That is maybe a little bit, characterizing the people who upvote, humor posts. It's just easier to upvote a humor post.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is.
It's like it's a much lower
Definitely.
bar. Like a text post and other types of posts, it takes a little bit more engagement to digest. So if you're just scrolling, which is what most people do, upvoting a humor post is so easy. So we just added like a layer of difficulty there so that we could have more variance on the sub because everything was getting diluted by the humor posts.
The same kind of principle applies to the personal accomplishments posts, which we obviously trialed, not removing all of them, but having much stricter rules on, because essentially they would get upvoted a lot, and it would, in a sense, they would consume a lot of r/new, and it, to an extent, drowned out other content. But then we kind of fell back on that because, unlike memes, personal accomplishment posts, it's kind of hard to give people a Clash of Clans sub and then say you're not allowed to post about how you're doing. And there'll be people who'd max 10 or 14 and we've removed their post. And it's like, sure, lots of people max 10 or 14, but also can't we just congratulate the people who do? So that was kind of a weird mix of, yes, they get upvoted a lot and they're not the highest quality post, but then it gets to the point where if you try to remove everything, you're not really going to have many posts left.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like we're just trying to play whack-a-mole with whatever the most unpopular type of posts are sometimes. And I think the personal accomplishments are one we got wrong for a while, but eventually we came around and reverted it. Humor, I think we're all still happy with. I guess I shouldn't speak for you guys, but
I think it went over really, really well. And for the
Definitely.
record, it really wasn't our idea. Like we've seen other subreddits and popular games take a variety of different approaches. And I can't remember exactly what subreddit, but there are multiple similar examples that did humor only on the weekends. And we just found it to be the nicest compromise.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people didn't realize was going on for the years that humor was the most dominant post on the sub is that there were just as many complaints. There are actually a lot more complaints about how much humor was on the sub back then than there are now about humor being limited to weekends. I see maybe like one complaint, and then it's like generally a pretty reasonable person right now about humor like being limited to weekends. But like a couple of years ago, we would have people messaging mods every single day saying, I hate how humor's overrunning the sub. And so they're both vocal minorities, and it's not, the best thing in the world to cater to a vocal minority in any standpoint, but that's the change that we went with, and we all feel pretty good about it.
I got 10 times more hate removing personal accomplishment stuff than I ever did for humor.
Yeah.
I think people, it's a really common kind of rule to have like a meme Monday or a meme weekend or whatever. It's pretty common across Reddit. People come post Florida's humor and it gets pulled instantly by Automod, and then they get it, I think, for the most part. But then, when a guy comes on and says, hey, I maxed, whatever town hall, and then we manually remove it an hour later, it's a little more personally insulting, I think it feels like. And yeah, over the last couple months, nearly all the hate I got was probably over personal accomplishments.
Yeah, I even got a message today over a personal accomplishment post. It's quite a funny story. I removed a guy's personal accomplishment post because his accomplishment was that he got banned for 2 days for harassment. And I genuinely had an argument with him about it. He messaged me in chat and I said, this, and he said, why was this removed? And I said, well, getting banned, it just isn't an accomplishment, is it? He was like, oh, well, I like the flare because I like the colour. And I was like, well, don't do that. And he was like, well, can you approve it then? I was like, no.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. We got time for a couple more questions. There's one that I think is super interesting by ASD2527. Says, why is Lalo the best? And I think there's a little bit of subtext to that question, that Lalo has just been one of the top strategies pretty much ever since it came out. I think you guys talked about Lalo a little bit, at least like TDH last week or 2 weeks ago. But I'll give my short answer to it, and then if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free, because I have never been that great at Lalo, but I've always wanted to be. And up until like Town Hall 10, I can Lalo super well, and afterwards it gets hard. But I think it's because you just have more control over your attack in a Lalo than anything else. If you queen walk or whatever your entry is, You can like carve out whatever percent of the base, whatever portion of it you're choosing to do. Haste spells only taking up 1 slot and balloon spells only taking up 5 slots means that you can put a certain number of balloons for pretty much every single defense. And then path your loons really well. You just have to drop them in the exact right place and then use your hastes in the exact right moment. And the further along the game you go, the more elements there are, the more spell space, the more heroes and all that. And so Lalo is really good for pros especially because it gives you more control over your attack than almost any other strategy. And if you're really good, that's a good thing. If you're not really good, that's obviously not a good thing. You want as much like stat power as you can as opposed to individual control.
I just want to interject to someone because I use Lalo probably more than any other attack. Partially because I'd seen it on videos and I wanted to learn it. And the main sell for me is, so firstly, the big thing is what Frank was saying about the control you have. Because like personally, I think because I use Lalo so much, I now have a complete hatred of spam attacks because I feel completely out of control. I hate just watching my troops and hoping they do the right thing. I like being able to place them where I want them, use my spells where I want them, have a very methodical attack. And also, secondly, because Lalo has so many different variations and adaptations, in theory, you can beat any base with Lalo. Because when you think about it, there is Ciri Lalo, there is Blizz Lalo, there is Queen Charge Lalo, there is Skelly Donut Lalo. There's like, I've seen Lalos where people use a Ground Warden and a whole kill squad with a cleanup Lalo. Granted, that's a bit more of a pro attack, but you get the point that it's all about the fact that you can customize it however you want. You can create so many different openings. You can do what you want and then have this Lalo portion, which you are in control of with. And I love it personally.
I was just going to say, I just switched back to Lalo between last CWL and this one and doing Queen Charge Lalos. And yeah, it's just all about shaping it right. I just sent a link to the group there. I think Spence will put it in there with my favorite Reddit guide to Lalo. Anytime that I need to brush up, I've probably read this through half a dozen times because I'm not great. And I have to brush up once in a while to make sure I know what I'm talking about. But if you want a really good Lalo guide, I'm not going to butcher a Lalo guide. Check out the one that will be linked from RT250. He also does a Blizzard guide, which is awesome. And maybe we can link both of those eventually.
Yeah, those are both really good posts.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most awesome in-depth text guides I've ever seen.
I think the main place people struggle with Lalo is pathing. It is such a pathing-dependent attack, and especially the setup, it is all about pathing. And it's like not something you would instantly think of. For example, say for Blizzard Lalo, I often see people do a Blizzard. I'm not going to go into detail of how to do Lalo, but obviously people do a Blizzard on one side of the base and a Ciri on the other, and that just isn't how you do it. Like, even if you think you're getting good value by taking out certain targets, that's just not how you make good Lalo pathing.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
And that's something you need to learn to do it effectively.
Yeah, and I'm at the point now where I am not great at Lalo at Town Hall 14 because there's so many elements that go on that it's a ton of skill to actually pull off super well. But I was trying to do super drags, and at least the strategy that I had pulled for it, I just couldn't. It was all super drags and one or two other troops, and everything was on the map 15 seconds into the attack, and I felt like there was no control that I had over the rest of it. And so I like the attacks that are a lot more in the middle. I think that's why hybrid is as popular as it is. It gives you a lot of control, but then your army is a little bit spammy after your queen walk and everything else is done. But I live in that middle.
Yeah, I've been using the family of dragon attacks for a long time leading up to Lalo, and there's definitely a substantial difference in your mindset and carving up the base, trying to plan like a symmetrical sweep through the base with dragons versus a deep dive and then picking it off with the balloons at the end. Big mental shift.
All right, guys, what do you think? It is 9:58. Do we have time for one more good question, or go ahead and do shout outs and wrap up?
Let's go for one more.
Sure.
All right. This one might be a longer conversation. I think the best question that we have left is from Kyle THM. Would having access to any number of super troops be something you guys see in the future, or do you think we'll be limited to 2 or 3? And then is having more than 2 boosted OP? And he says something too about the in-game dark elixir economy. So I don't know if we have time to go into all the economy of it.
Ooh, I weighed in on this last time. One of the changes I can see Supercell making is to super troops, and I think there will be some kind of like something that costs gems where you can end your super troop and start a new one somehow.
Yeah, I don't
Skip the
think
wait time.
I don't think they'll ever allow you to boost any at once, because like sometimes when people talk about the economy, they do over dramatize it a bit, but it is a fair point. If you can dump all your dark elixir into super troops, there will be a lack of dark elixir in circulation, and it will be harder to loot it, harder to upgrade heroes, which is already the most grindy thing in the world. So I do definitely see issues with that, but I can't see them ever doing it.
Yeah, I think the first quality of life improvement they'll do is that you can donate any of them, whether you can use it or not. I think you should be able to donate more than you have boosted.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
help.
it would have to be like a gem donation kind of deal, but yeah, I can see that happening.
That's the most
Or
realistic.
or maybe having 3 or 4 unlocked, but still being limited to 2 per army comp.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, I think that's a great idea. And then you can go back
Yeah.
and forth if you have a Legends attack that's different than your War attack, or if you just like would hit a ring
100%.
base differently than another base. Yeah, I think that's a great one.
But yeah, I guess, we're in February now. There will likely be a spring update, so it's not too long until we could start to see some sort of improvements, hopefully.
But I think they'll have to pretty much boost every troop, maybe not every troop, before they let you unlock 3 of them for a single attack. If they do that, I think we're really far away from that, and I think we've got 5 or 6 quality of life improvements to make to the whole system before they let you unlock 3 at once.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if no one else has anything more to say, I think we could wrap it up now.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Frank. Check out my YouTube, My Heart Clash of Clans.
I'm on Reddit.
Yeah, I'm on Reddit too. You might have figured that out, but.
And then I'm Rick. Thanks for listening. If you want to check out other cool podcasts, here I'll plug a few. Clash Tips is really great. Those 2 guys are very knowledgeable. You can also give Clashing in Traffic a shout out. He's another Redditor, a guy by the name of Catfish. He's in with Klaus's clan, the YouTube Klaus, not the pro player Klaus.
I get learned with different people only a week ago.
He's been hitting the account security stuff pretty hard on his podcast, and it's really solid stuff. So a huge thank you to him for spreading the word. And then Pineapples and Thorns also gave us a little shout out. So check those guys out, the Clash Files family. They've been having various podcasts for that's gotta be close almost as long as the game's been out. So thanks to everyone else.
And finally, just some shout outs for us, I guess. We will be publishing this podcast and all the others on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and probably something I'm forgetting. So if you just search Reddit Talks Clash on any of them, you'll be able to find it. And Spencer might link them in the description if possible.
Huge shout out to our Wizard of Oz in the back room, Mr. Spen, putting everything up there, bringing the links to everybody. Thanks for what you do, dude.
Thank you, Spencer.
Well, I think I'll be signing off now. So thank you all for listening, everyone, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one, 9 p.m. EST.
Yep, catch you next time.
Cheers.